Welcome to Classic Driver Market Insights, the Monterey Auctions Ferrari Special. What a title, but it was needed. Every August, the collector car world is on a pilgrimage to a scenic peninsula in California. Their destination is the Monterey Car Week. All is built around the famous Pebble Beach concours that has been the grand finale for 75 years of this automotive week. And, of course, it is one of the most important weeks for car auctions. All major houses are gathering very rare and special cars to find new owners to them. The year 2026 is the year that changed the Ferrari market in the US completely, in a way I never would have expected it. Modern low-mileage Ferrari achieved results on the auction block that were never seen before. And I can tell you that the result for exactly this kind of Ferraris at the Monterey auctions went even more crazy. This is the reason why we decided to do this film, the Classic Driver Market Insights, focusing on the Monterey results for Ferraris. We will look into the top performing Ferrari lots, from a plug-in Ferrari 5-seater sold for $40 million. Yeah, you listen right, not 14, 40, to modern Ferrari that outperformed the post-war classics. For years, the received wisdom was simple. Old Ferraris go up, modern Ferraris follow in a normal pace. A modern Ferrari was a car and a vintage Ferrari was a collectible asset. Modern, low mileage or even delivery mileage Ferrari, the kind that has been spent its entire life in a climate-controlled garage in Florida being looked at, started making serious money that used to be reserved for cars like the 250 short wheelbase. We see a generational shift in the buyer's market, but that's only one side of the story. Let us start with the most controversial result of the entire Monterey Car Week. The first ever produced Ferrari Luce, chassis number 0, was sold at RM for charity for staggering $40 million. Collector Dr. Herbert "Herbie" Wertheim bid the stunning amount for the Luce. Yes, he will profit from a generous tax savings, some say in the excess of $20 million, but still paying more than 20 times over the list price is quite astonishing. Don't get me wrong, I'm all in for charity, and the Ferrari Foundation seems to do a great job in supporting education and local small businesses. But still, the sheer number left me quite speechless. Dr. Wertheim seems to like to buy cars for charity, as he also bought the tailor-made Ferrari Daytona SP3 at RM's charity auction last year. We could not leave this result out. However, I do not see a sustainable value growth for future Luce models. Let us have a look back what impact the real auction results had. The market isn't simply rising for Ferrari, it's kind of splitting. The big money is flowing very passionately into the rare collectible Ferraris from the analog and early hypercar era. Roughly speaking, the F50, the Enzo, LaFerrari and other special and rare editions. Standard production models are benefiting significantly less from this, at least at the moment. This, in my opinion, will also change. Let's look at RM Sotheby'ss Monterey sale. The Cavallino Rampante was downright dominant. 7 of the 10 most expensive cars were Ferraris. Literally, the entire modern Ferrari Halo hierarchy was on offer at this 3-day auction. Let's have a look at the 4 leading Ferrari lots. The 2023 Daytona SP3 sold for staggering $17.82 million. 3 months ago, in Italy at the Concorso Eleganza Villa d'Este, a Daytona SP3 crossed the block at Broad Arrow for $7.26 million. Similar model, same production run of just 599 plus 1, both bought at around $2.3 million when new. The difference was the room. Monterey isn't just an auction, it's the center of gravity for the entire collector car world. The second most expensive Ferrari sold at RM was the 1995 Ferrari F50, the car once owned by boxing legend Mike Tyson, sold for $12.1 million. A US spec car with just 6,000 miles on the meter. The Halo list goes further with the 2003 Ferrari Enzo, also a US market spec. One of 111 that was sold for $9.4 million. Last but not least, the LaFerrari with nearly 700 miles on the meter auctioned off for $8.69 million. Do you see a pattern already? Definitely. Mileage plays a role. It becomes really interesting when comparing identical models at different auction houses. The Giallo Modena F50, one of only 31 offered by Mecum, went for $14.5 million, while the Mike Tyson F50 at RM Monterey was sold for less than $2 million. Maybe the rarity of the yellow versus red made the difference here. However, provenance always counts in, so this is kind of a surprise. Since 1998, Classic Driver is also the place where auction houses advertising their latest lots for their upcoming auctions. So, if you are looking for something classic like this wonderful Ferrari 250 GT Europa, or something more sporty and modern like this 599 SR Aperta, you should definitely check the Classic Driver market. Check the latest auction lots and you will for sure find something that you will like and you can go bidding for. In total, 3 Enzos were on offer at Monterey. Also here, Mecum take the crown with selling their 2003 Rosso Corsa Enzo with only 595 miles for $12.1 million. The Nero Enzo at the Broad Arrow Quail auction off for $10.6 million, despite 13,000 miles on the meter. Last but not least, there is the Enzo at RM Sotheby'ss in Rosso Corsa. With only 2 owners from new, it's sold for just, and I mean just, $9.41 million. Still $1 million above the high estimate, imagine. These results could not match with the $15 million plus result for an Enzo sold in Amelia Island by Broad Arrow this year earlier. It shows the strong demand for Enzos anyway. But do not even think that only Ferrari Halo cars are leaving the block with big tickets. One of my absolute favorite modern Ferrari is the F12 Tour de France. At Mecum, 3 fortune hunters were looking to sell their TDFs. However, only the 799 miles Giallo Triplo Strato succeeded and found for, listen up, $3.67 million a new home. But the real story is the unsold F12 TDF in the gorgeous color combination Azzurro La Plata over sterling blue. The car has only delivery mileage around 120, meaning someone had this V12 monster sitting somewhere in storage and never drove it. I would never have that kind of self-discipline, to be honest. However, I find it hard to understand that the high bid of $4.5 million was not high enough for the seller. Also, the third TDF at Mecum did not sell at $3.8 million. This shows how quickly the market expectations have shifted into different spheres. Much too high spheres, I assume. At the Broad Arrow Quail auction, they sold the Bianco Italia F12 TDF with 1,060 miles for $3.63 million. A solid result. A very interesting phenomena happening to the 4 Ferrari 812 Competizione that were on offer in the same week at Monterey. The leading 812 comps was the tailor-made one at RM Sotheby'ss, sold for $4.84 million. For sure, the 2 magic words in the Ferrari world, tailor and made, were the kicker for this highest price ever paid for an 812 at a public auction. 2, let's say, normal 812 Competizione were sold as well. Christies sold theirs for $2.53 million, whereas Mecum's one was sold for $3.35 million. Still, very solid results, and we see definitely these models are also on the race in the US. The learning, mileage and spec are the main differentiators within the Ferrari auction trend at the US market. But do also the auction houses itself could be a factor in the sales result? I think a clear maybe would be the right answer. One model in particular changed its status in Monterey. Let us look at the F50. In 2024, the public auction record was around 5.5 million. Already in 2025, 9.2. In 2026, it ranges from 8 million to the latest one of 15.58 million. The trend is clearly visible. It's going up in quite a steep curve. The market isn't treating the F50 as a used supercar anymore. It's treating it as a blue chip. The Enzo is a few years behind on the same path. 2 sold in Monterey within days, 9.4 million at RM and 10.6 at Broad Arrow. But don't forget, back in January, Broad Arrow found an Enzo buyer for 15.1 million at their Amelia auction. The 10 million barrier for these cars has fallen. A good Enzo is now a 10 million asset. Below the Halo cars, 3 market tiers are forming. Tier 1, F50, Enzo, LaFerrari, SP3 are rising sharply and increasing value. The line between classic and modern Ferraris is dissolving. Tier 2, F12 TDF 599 GTO, 458 Speciale, 812 Competizione and others. This is where it gets interesting. F12 TDF around 3.6 million, 599 GTO 3.3, A12 Competizione between 2.5 and 3.3. These are prices where we see really something happening. The market's starting to treat these as future blue chips, and this is where the next big shift will happen, in my opinion, but we will see. At tier 3, sitting cars like the 360, the F430, 458 and 488, because they are not there yet. Even though money is pouring into the market, these cars haven't seen a big jump, but this will come later on. An ordinary model Ferrari isn't carried by this tide yet, but I'm quite sure we will see some tier 3 cars jumping into tier 2 within the next 1 or 2 years. But what is the driver behind it? Why are so many collectors obsessed with the F50 or the Enzo? Same answer every time. V12 naturally aspirated, a manual or at least something close to it, built in tiny numbers, and the best case being the last of its kind. That's not nostalgia, that's the collector's generation changing in real time. A buyer in his 40s or 50s today didn't grow up dreaming about a 250 short wheelbase. His poster was the F40, the F50, the Enzo, the Carrera GT, or even the McLaren F1. Those posters are now kind of shacks, and they are being cashed at auction houses for millions, especially at Monterey this year. And it's precisely these cars that are now entering the same financial league as the classic Ferrari icons. But here is a little downside. With a critical eye, you can see the beginning of a bubble, which should not be overlooked. The strong results do definitely not mean that every F50 is now worth 14.5 million or higher, nor that every Enzo is worth 12 million. Rather, it means the market is paying extreme premiums for the top 5 to 10% of the examples. This is a classic feature of a maturing collector's market. The differentiation has long been recognized with the 250 short wheelbase, Daytona, or even the Dino. Now, this trend is reaching the 1995 to 2025 generation Ferraris. Conclusion for the Ferrari market in 2026? I would summarize Monterey in a single sentence as follows. Ferrari from around 1995 onwards are currently being reclassified from modern used supercars to historic interesting collector cars, but only the right models and examples. The following hierarchy will emerge in the coming years, I think. The F50 has already fully established itself in the institutional blue chip market. It has further potential, but there's also naturally a significant risk of a setback following the extreme rise. The Enzo is currently undergoing the same revaluation phase that the F50 went through only a few years ago. The 10 million threshold appears to have been permanently exceeded. LaFerrari is the next in line. 8.6 million at Monterey is a very important signal, I would say. The most interesting next group for me are the cars like 599 GTO, the F12 TDF, and the 458 Speciale A. The market is increasingly recognizing that these cars mark the end of certain eras in Ferrari's own history. The A12 Competizione, Pista Spider and 16M are also structurally strong, but are even more dependent on specification and mileage. Standard production Ferraris are significantly more selective. I would describe this as a general Ferrari, and apologies to Lamborghini, a bull market.